My government continues to take bold and decisive steps to open up and grow the economy for the benefit of all our people. The roadmap articulated in our Vision 2030 with the TSP as the key building block is being systematically pursued. We are reforming our economy, we are reforming political space and the very fabric of our society. I am encouraged by the nation's positive response to the currency reforms which we have embarked on. Government is equally pleased with the relative stability of the exchange rate over the past 8 weeks. However, last week's events of exchange rate manipulation amounts to economic sabotage and should not be tolerated. We all need to adhere to the rule of law and foster discipline at all levels. We are determined to consolidate digital financial services which are contributing to the creation of financial inclusion by way of delivering banking services to previously unbanked and vulnerable groups of our population. To further support the development of the financial services sector, government has revived the issuance of treasury bills and bonds through the auction system. In this vein, the RBZ has established savings bond instruments to facilitate safe and secure investment for the public. In addition, measures will be put in place to establish the SME stock exchange with a view to unlocking resources for the SMEs. Mr. Speaker, sir, government is fully aware of the challenges faced by the public in accessing cash, which has resulted in some unscrupulous traders selling cash in exchange for electronic money. Appropriate measures are being taken to address the cash situation, which include a gradual removal of arbitrage opportunities created through multi-tier pricing. I am pleased to highlight that the ongoing fiscal consolidation measures are already paying off. During the first half of 2019, a budget surplus has been recorded. Such savings have enabled government to meet essential and planned expenditures, in particular towards the rehabilitation of damaged infrastructure and in supporting livelihoods for communities affected by Cyclone Idai. In social service delivery, cost of living adjustments for civil servants, and the provision of social safety nets for the vulnerable members of our society. Mr. Speaker, sir, while the sustained turnaround of our economy hinges on focused support for the productive sectors, especially agriculture, mining, and manufacturing, the 2018-2019 drought has seen our agricultural sector registering a negative growth rate. Going forward, government has set aside Zimbabwe dollars $1.8 billion towards the production of strategic crops, such as maize, soybeans, and cotton. Of this amount, Of this amount, Zimbabwe dollars 567.4 million has been allocated for the provision of inputs for vulnerable households, and another 332 million Zimbabwe dollars to ensure the procurement of inputs for cotton production. A total of Zimbabwe dollars 968 million will augment the Zimbabwe dollars 2.8 billion put forward by banks and the private sector to support the Command Agriculture Program. Let me hasten to state that only those with a proven track record of delivering to GMB and repaying their loans will be supported under the Command Agriculture Program. To strengthen our resilience to climate change, government is encouraging communal A1 and A2 farmers to grow traditional grains. The implementation of the Irrigation Development Program will also be accelerated. A Zimbabwe $60 million facility has been set aside for the rehabilitation of machinery under the Command Agriculture Program. US $51 million has been allocated for the supply of various agricultural machinery from John Deere, some of which are already being delivered. Meanwhile, government will accelerate the consummation of a facility with the government of Belarus for the importation of tractors, planters, and combined harvesters. To render inputs more affordable to our farmers, government is putting in place measures to facilitate the duty-free importation of fertilizers. Targeted electricity subsidies and the local manufacturing of fertilizers, including the full exploitation of phosphates from Dorowa. Government is currently working on a program to avail dipping chemicals and also in improving general animal husbandry practices. Research by our institutions of higher and tertiary education towards the local manufacturing of foot and mouth disease vaccines has also begun with the support of government. Mr. Speaker, sir, the mining sector has continued to be the country's key source of export earnings, income, employment, and the preferred destination for investment inflows. During the first half of the year, the sector generated US $1.3 billion, which constitutes 68% of the country's total export receipts. We will soon unveil a comprehensive strategy and roadmap towards the attainment of a US $12 billion mining industry in Zimbabwe by 2023. The attainment of this goal is achievable with concrete greenfields and expansion projects now at various stages of implementation. Mr. Speaker, sir, our manufacturing sector offers immense growth opportunities through backward and forward production linkages. I am pleased to note that some companies are gradually increasing their production and exports. The introduction of a monocurrency system is also set to boost the competitiveness of our manufacturing sector. In addition, government is scaling up its support to the sector through duty exemption on raw materials and capital equipment, tax breaks and holidays for priority projects and other import management measures. This thrust is anchored on the implementation of the recently adopted Zimbabwe National Industrial Development Policy and Local Content Strategy. Mr. Speaker, to promote trade and exports, the modernization of the Bridge border post and the bilateral negotiations on the establishment of one-stop border posts in Victoria Falls and Bridge are ongoing. The introduction of smart technologies to speed up freight clearance at our ports of entry will be speeded up. As Zimbabwe, we continue to play our part in advancing the SADC, COMESA, and African Union economic development agenda. In partnership with the private sector, we envisage to drive maximum benefit from the operationalization of African Continental Free Trade Area. Our businesses are urged to take advantage of the scope that exists from Zimbabwe's becoming a transport and logistics hub for the region. This follows the commissioning of the Zimbabwe Walvis Bay Dry Port in Namibia, coupled with other confirmed bilateral investments. Our SMEs continue to face challenges of inappropriate technology and unsuitable work spaces. Government has since secured US 2.7 million grant from the government of India for the upgrading of 11 existing technology and common facility centers located in the country's 10 provinces. Additional state-of-the-art machinery for use in manufacturing activities of SMEs are currently being installed. Going forward, government is committed to support programs to build appropriate workspaces for SMEs businesses. I am also pleased to report that, in line with government's policy to empower women entrepreneurs, the Zimbabwe Women's Microfinance Bank continues to disperse loans to clients throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, government is accelerating the operationalization of the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency. Furthermore, we have begun implementing phase 2 of the Ease of Doing Business reform program. It is encouraging that Zimbabwe has been recognized by the World Bank as having made considerable regulatory improvements in 5 areas measured on the ease and the cost of doing business. This has seen Zimbabwe being cited as a country in the top 20 improvers in doing business in the world. Mr. Speaker, due to the impact of climate change, our economy is facing severe electricity supply challenges owing to reduced hydropower generation capacity at Kariba Dam. To address this state of affairs, we have now restored the cost-reflective electricity tariff structure and increased the power imports to provide the much-needed short-term relief. More innovative initiatives will be implemented to ensure stability in the sector. Meanwhile, ZESA will be restructured to enhance efficiency and eliminate corruption. I urge all of us to protect the power installations in our areas. Initiatives must be developed at community level to bring to an end criminal activities which destroy these vital installations. The country has seen some stability in the fuel sector on the back of the introduction of cost-reflective pricing adjustments, coupled with the fuel procurement financing facilities structured by government. Companies with foreign currency are now permitted to procure their own fuel through registered oil companies. To curb malpractices in the fuel industry, government will soon roll out an electronic national fuel monitoring system. For the long term, a comprehensive national integrated energy resource plan is being developed by the Harare Institute. Mr. Speaker, the modernization and rehabilitation of our infrastructure, in particular road networks, has resumed in earnest with noticeable progress across the country. Given that these are key enablers to our national economic revival as envisaged under Vision 2030, we are determined to leapfrog the quality of our infrastructure across the country. To date, a total of Zimbabwe $2.5 billion, which constitutes 34.5% of total capital development, has been set aside for various transport, water, public amenities, energy, irrigation, social services, and other infrastructural projects. The Hwange 7 and 8 thermal power project, the RG Mugabe International Airport expansion, bore rehabilitation and drilling, and the construction of the new parliament building projects are all well on course. Dam construction projects such as the Marova Nyati Dam, Gwai Shangani Dam, walling of Causeway Dam, among others, are also on schedule. The tourism sector remains on an upward growth trajectory, generating about US 1.3 billion in receipts. To accelerate this growth trend, robust strategies are being pursued to boost investments in accommodation and conference facilities, as well as in widening our range of tourism products, including health. I urge players in the sector to be flexible and adopt more competitive pricing regimes and to jointly market our attractions with partners from the region and beyond. Mr. Speaker, significant steps have been realized in the implementation of the public enterprise reforms. These include the demerger of GMB into the GMB Strategic Grain Reserve and the Silo Foods Industries, recapitalization of the NRZ, for which US 420 million has now been secured by the DIDG, recapitalization of CSC, of which the approved strategic partner is already on the ground, unbundling of the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe CARS, approval by Cabinet of the roadmap for the privatization of TEL 1 and NET 1 as a single entity, and the partial privatization of Allied Timbers, POSB, ZUPCO, Agribank, and the IDBZ. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is incumbent on us all to ensure that our nation grooms proactive, patriotic young citizens capable of protecting their heritage. Through the ongoing Build Zimbabwe program, government has mobilized thousands of young people from across the country to engage in voluntary work within their respective communities. Meanwhile, the Empower Bank continues to capacitate our youths through financial inclusion programs and financial training workshops across the country. In the health sector, government is implementing measures to revitalize the referral system by upgrading medical infrastructure and equipment in clinics, district hospitals, and central hospitals. I wish at this juncture to pay tribute to the United Arab Emirates, UAE, and the government of India, along with other partners, for their generous support towards the modernization and revamping of our health delivery system. Mr. Speaker, sir, we continue to engage and re-engage with the international community. We remain indebted to SADC following the landmark resolution taken at the 39th Summit held in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania in August this year, declaring 25 October as the date for member states of SADC to collectively call for the lifting of the illegal sanctions imposed on our country. Zimbabwe deeply appreciates the gesture of friendship and solidarity by our member states in SADC. The 74th United Nations General Assembly, held only last week, offered us yet another opportunity to advance our country's national interests, highlighting our journey of transition, reform, and growth. Our participation at meetings under the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation FOCAC and the Tokyo International Cooperation for Africa Development, TICAD, was also in furtherance of this goal. At all these forums, conversations were frank, positive, and productive. Zimbabwe and the European Union formally launched their dialogue in June 2019 under Article 8 of the Cotonou Partnership Agreement. Re-engagement with the Commonwealth is ongoing, with the latest round of meetings having taken place on the sidelines of the recent 74th United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me now to turn to the legislative program, which the second session of the 9th Parliament must pursue with renewed vigor. I commend the progress registered in the alignment of our country's laws to the Constitution. This development will undoubtedly help further entrench democratic traditions, the rule of law, and constitutionalism in our country. The second session of the 9th Parliament is expected to continue the alignment process by considering amendment to the High Court Act, Labour Court Act, Magistrates Court Act, and the Police Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill will be placed before this Parliament in an endeavor to align the current Act to the Constitution. In line with devolution, this bill extends the scope of application of statutes to provincial and metropolitan councils as well as local authorities, including the mandatory submissions of annual budgets and financial performance reports. The Insurance and Pension Act will be amended to enhance good corporate governance, while Securities and Exchange Commission Bill is intended to strengthen anti-money laundering legislation. The bill to facilitate the appointment of the Deposit Protection Corporation as the liquidator of all deposit-taking institutions will also be tabled. The Mines and Minerals Amendment Bill is expected to be retabled, while amendments to the Gold Trade Act and the Precious Stones Act must ensure that our mining industry is more competitive and in sync with global benchmarks. Government has noted with concern the emergence of monopolies as well as cartels, which stifle competition as they engage in unjustified price hikes. While government will not revert to price controls, we are nonetheless in the process of reviewing the Competition Act in order to introduce deterrent penalties to combat such business malpractices. In the energy sector, the Petroleum Act will be amended to create an enabling environment for natural gas and mineral oil exploitation and exploration. The Electricity Act will see the imposition of stiffer penalties for vandalism and the theft of electricity infrastructure and equipment. As the media legislative reforms gather pace, the bills relating to freedom of information, the Zimbabwe Media Commission, Protection of Information, and the Broadcasting Services Act amendments must be expedited during this session. In view of the fast-changing technology, there is a need to continue to research and develop new legislative and regulatory instruments to secure the country's cyberspace. This session of Parliament must therefore consider the Cybercrime and the Cybersecurity Bill and the Data Protection and Electronic Transactions Bill to regulate this field. The Pension and Provident Funds Bill is designed to ensure compliance with international standards. The ultimate objective is to protect the policyholders and the pensioners so that they fully enjoy their rights and benefits. The Medical Aid Societies Bill will pave way for the establishment of the Medical Aid Society Regulatory Authority. This bill seeks to ensure that medical aid societies operate within the law as health care insurers rather than doubling up as health care providers. The Prisons and Correctional Services Bill, Child Justice Bill, and Mandatory Sentencing for Rape and the Sexual Offences Bill must incorporate acceptable customary norms, human rights standards, and international best practices. Amendments to the Immigration Act will pave way for the establishment of a Citizenship and Immigration Board as provided for in our Constitution. Parliament will also be expected to consider the ratification of the protocol against the smuggling of migrants by land, by sea, and air, and the protocol against the illicit manufacturing and trafficking of firearms, their parts and components, and ammunition. The Persons with Disabilities Bill seeks to entrench the protection of the constitutional rights of persons living with disabilities. The Private Voluntary Organization Bill seeks to streamline and strengthens administrative procedures as well as improve the governance of the non-governmental organizations. Mr. Speaker, the ongoing democratic reforms must entrench constitutional rights and freedoms for all Zimbabweans, and therefore the culture of fear and the violence must be uprooted from our societies. In line with this commitment to deepen our democracy, I have set up an interministerial task force to look into the political, electoral, legislative, and administrative issues raised by the 2018 electoral observer missions and indeed the Montate Commission of Inquiry. Mr. Speaker, the law must be a universal instrument for development. As such, the slow pace in this august House, which has resulted in a low number of bills passing through Parliament, cannot be allowed to continue. I thus, through you, Mr. Speaker, challenge honorable members in their individual and collective capacities to play their part in speeding up our parliamentary processes. Equally, reports of mismanagement of public finances, which are exposed by the Office of the Auditor General and brought before this Parliament, must never be condoned. Corruption retards our development, frustrates our easy and the cost of doing business reforms, and robs us of our revenues. Government will continue to strengthen institutions that help in the fight against corruption. We must rid our society of this corruption cancer. And to this, there is no going back. It is time to increase accountability and transparency. We must work hard and smarter to save our people. They deserve better from us. Let us be mindful that the Zimbabwe we all want, with opportunities and hope, shall only be achieved through productivity, innovation, responsiveness, persistence, deliberate planning, and disciplined focus. We must therefore adequately prepare for the opportunities and challenges which are ahead of us. Our Vision 2030 envisages a Zimbabwe with a digital and knowledge-driven economy. As such, we shall reinvigorate the implementation of the e-government program, as well as operationalize the National Data Center to foster digital capabilities across the entire economy. Mr. Speaker, the economic reforms we have embarked on are beginning to bear fruit. I am aware of the pain being experienced by the poor and the marginalized. Fellow compatriots, getting the economy working again from being dead will require time, patience, unity of purpose, and perseverance. I'm happy with the progress being made under the ongoing political parties dialogue, and stand ready to welcome all political parties who contested the 2018 harmonized elections and are yet to be part of this forum. With these remarks, it is now my singular honor and privilege to table this State of the Nation address and declare the second session of the 9th Parliament of the Republic of Zimbabwe officially open. God bless you all. God bless Zimbabwe. I thank you.